Dan, you ready?
Why don't you do me last? Go ahead. With everybody
Oh,
else.
he's calling his shot. Bad
Yeah.
Yeah.
cleanup.
I gotta get situated here.
Hey, no problem, Dan. I will do you last. Keep that in, Tim. Keep that in. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the BTB Movie Club podcast. My name is Aaron Lashbrook. We hope you enjoy today's movie discussion. Thank you for listening.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're here for movie number 211. We're on the rewatch theme here for the newbies in the group. We got 3 rewatchable movies. This one is 1977's Annie Hall, picked by the professor, Aaron Lashbrook. Tell us why you picked it and take it away, Aaron.
I picked it because it was a movie that I hadn't seen. I had previously tried to pick it, not knowing that it was already on the list, and was shut down that day.
That's right. We came at you pretty fast on that.
Yeah, well, impressive knowing, because I mean, at that time there was still, it was under 200, but it was over 150.
Yeah,
that you guys knew right away. But I mean, if I would have watched it in the last year, I think I would have remembered too. I know I had seen Woody Allen stuff. I don't know which one it is. I'm pretty sure it's a Woody Allen movie. I remember seeing it when I was too young, and there's a a giant boob chasing people. Pretty sure that's a Woody Allen movie. Does anybody have any idea what I'm talking about? Because like it's just kind of a scary childhood fever dream.
it sounds familiar, but I don't know what the title is.
Okay. Would it have it? Getting off track. Never mind. I'm pretty sure it's the first Woody Allen movie I've seen front to back on purpose. It hadn't just been on, or I walked into a room and somebody else was watching it, or and to be honest, Brian would call me out if I didn't say this. It was super highly rated. I mean, the numbers are through the roof.
Yeah.
97, 93, 8.9, something like that. They're really up there. So it's really going to help my averages.
Do we add the rewatchables to the averages? Do we do that?
Ooh,
We'll
I think you would have to. It's
We'll have to have a
Well, yeah, I was
production
about
meeting.
to say you. I
What do I
don't
get
think you
zeros?
can.
What do I get zeros?
Yeah, I don't think you can not add it for Aaron.
We'll have a production meeting. We'll get back to you at a future date.
All right. I have a couple producers mull it over.
Yep.
But yeah, so I watched it today. Started watching it yesterday and didn't work out. Got a bit of a cold lingering. Been battling it, trying to stay awake. Feeling pretty good today, which right in time to go back to work. So yay. But from conversations, I know or thought or think I know where Brian's going to go with it, but not to lead him. I want to hear what Brian has to say about Annie Hall.
So
I was waiting on. I watched it. Moving on.
I was not a big fan of Annie Hall the first time.
And it's one of those that got better, like those couple.
It got better.
Wow.
I'm gonna guess alcohol has a lot to do with some of the choices I've made in my life. Completely sober watching the movie. It's still, I mean, it's whiny Jew boy. I mean,
What?
yeah, I said it.
Wow.
Brian Larson's opinions do not necessarily reflect the overall opinions of the group.
I realized you couldn't see how wide my eyes got.
But I mean, that's what it was. So I mean, everybody who said anything, it was attacking him, and it's they didn't say chew, he said Jew,
Jewy.
and it's right. And then the mom, the grandma at the dinner looks at him, and he's in the full acidic Jewish outfit. It's, I mean, that part of it bugged me, but the idea of the movie, and it's about relationships and him and Annie, and then missing what he had, and just figured he would, he could break up with her, and they could be friends. And then when he was ready, it's like, oh, I miss her, I'll go get her. That doesn't quite work out. the showing his previous relationships, just the way it was written, they did just a really good job. I enjoyed how they presented the other relationships that he had. Um, some of the cameo appearances, John Glover as a boyfriend at one point, Jeff Goldblum mysteriously on a
That was
phone,
great. Yeah.
and
I forgot my mantra.
yeah, and then Beverly D'Angelo was on a TV series. I mean, they're all big name people, and they're listed as like party guest and person on TV show. So,
Jeff Goldblum looks so young, doesn't he?
yeah, I actually saw Wicked Saturday, and he does a really nice job in Wicked. But yeah, he absolutely looked young. I always thought my oldest brother kind of in the right movie kind of looks like him.
Hmm.
Probably a jail one, but anyway. So yeah, it was much better the second time for me. I did understand more why it did get such critical acclaim, and it is a well-written movie, and the relationship part of it. So at the time when we watched it the first time, I don't know where I was as a in relationship person, or well, I know I was in a relationship, just but that could have affected my decision at the time, or I'm glad I rewatched it. I see where all the critics give it the high scores, and I will leave more stuff for others from there. So nice pick, Aaron.
Not where I thought that was going to start off.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
What's
Well, I
Never
had
know.
two. I had two actually. I wrote two scripts. One was if you pick me first, I wasn't gonna fall for you and go ahead and do. And the other one was if I went last, I was just gonna rip the shit apart and like change the whole. But since you picked me first, I'm gonna go with a nice, humble.
all right? What's more
Except for
far-fetched?
except for calling him a Jew boy. Besides that part,
Once
that
again,
was
Brian's
in
comments do
both
not
scripts.
necessarily reflect the overall opinions of the group.
What was more far-fetched? Woody Allen being a sexual dynamo, or that true love is worth driving or flying across country for?
Ooh.
Which one's more far-fetched?
It's a trick question.
Not
He asked the right person
Well,
this question. That was
I mean,
targeted.
by far, it has to. The most far-fetched thing would be Woody Allen being a sexual dynamo. He'd never get with Diane Keaton. There's no way.
Shelley Duvall, I could see that.
Yeah, Shelley Duvall, definitely. She's fugly.
Oh man.
So,
Rest.
I mean,
wait, is she still with us? I don't know.
rest in peace. What matters? Dead ugly too.
And thank you, Brian. Moving
All
on.
right. Yeah. Might lose our sponsorship today.
Oh, speaking of Shelley Duvall, and I sent that before I knew she was even in it. Do you guys see? I don't think it's related to the poo verse, but they're
The Popeye. Yeah. How did
Popeye.
we miss it? It got sent to everybody
well, nobody commented on it.
because it's stupid.
Come on. Did anybody go watch the trailer?
I didn't want to hurt your feelings, Aaron.
I'm gonna go.
Didn't watch
So
it.
Popeye's beloved to me. I don't know if it is as much as poo to you. But I mean, he enters the public domain next year, and it's going to be released, right after Christmas or whatever. So you
Popeye
should
the
at least
Slayer,
watch the
man.
trailer.
So hey, so honestly, so it's beloved to you, and you that like
Yeah, I want to
You're
see
good
what
with
people
that?
do with it. Yeah. I don't like, I don't get all twisted up about like weird things that happen with Star Wars or Flash Gordon or
that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, like if Optimus Prime started, doing
Whoa,
awful
whoa,
things,
whoa.
hey.
Settle
Uh-oh.
down.
No,
Uh-oh.
I'm just kidding.
am I wrong? This is what I'm speaking from the heart here, guys.
In 2080, my grandkids will be able to write stories about that. I won't have to deal with it.
Okay. Okay.
You're not going to deal with grandkids.
No, probably not that either. So. Anyway, Matt, since I thought of you when I thought of the Popeye Scary Movie and Winnie the Pooh. And
Thanks.
how about you? I don't have a wheel to spin.
Uh, yeah, I wish I remember what I said the first time. It's almost like we should record these meetings.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure I didn't like it the first time. And unlike Brian, it didn't get any better. No, I can see to Brian's point, I can see why I guess it was up for an award. I'm not sure how it won, considering it was up against the one of the greatest movies ever made in history of the world, but that's fine. Yeah, it's an hour and a half of Woody Allen just being whiny and weird and gross. So I get at the time why it was sort of this new romantic comedy thing. But I mean, just some of this stuff just really bugs me. Like when he's talking about being in school as a 6-year-old and like being into girls, and like they even make a comment like 6-year-olds shouldn't have sexual thoughts. And he's like, I did. And it's like, dude, you're not helping your case. You're already like with the underage Asian girl. Why are you're not helping? And it's just he's annoying. He's just so annoying. Um, like I really like Seinfeld, right? Seinfeld does it right. Like he does sort of that self-hate, the Jewish comedy, like that's funny. Woody Allen just wasn't funny. There was some good writing in this, and I'm sure he had something to do with that, but I didn't look at the actual writers.
So
And
two
so
things before you get too far away from that. Seinfeld. You like Seinfeld? Do you like so George would be more the Woody
true.
Allen
Yeah,
character. So
true.
is that who you're talking about, or like you like
I guess I just mean that genre in general, but yes,
okay.
like George to me is funny.
What about Curb Your Enthusiasm? Because that takes it to
I don't watch.
another
I've seen a half episode of Curb Your
okay.
Enthusiasm.
All right.
Larry David, right? He
Yeah.
kind of seems like a weirdo too. So
Who was the main writer for
Main
Seinfeld?
writer for
right,
Seinfeld. Yeah.
right. Um, but yeah,
Marshall Brickman. Marshall Brickman wrote it with Woody Allen.
okay, and yeah,
He
and
did.
and there's some funny dialogue. There's some funny stuff in it. It's just I don't know. Maybe it's my own hang up on who it is and the era, right? It's the 70s, so I know things were a little different, but um, it- and I think I even read somewhere like at the time it was pretty groundbreaking for like romantic comedy, but we have a million romantic comedies every year. So like if this started it, great. Thank you, I guess. But like I just my own hang up. I can't get over some of that other stuff. It if it was just a run-of-the-mill movie that got good reviews, I'd be like, okay, I can see that. But the fact that it won the Academy Award just blows my mind. Um, just blows my mind. And again, this is 40 years ago. So I get that things have changed, but yeah, I think I said at the time, I'm glad I've watched it to say like I've seen that movie. It is on a lot of lists. It's won the Academy Award. It's ranked as one of Woody Allen's more popular movies. So, but just not my cup of tea, I guess. So, and they freaking gave him the award over Star Wars, so that's stupid.
I don't think we've ever agreed more. It looks like we called each other and decided to wear our school sweatshirts
Yep.
and like team up on everybody. I didn't even realize Brian would be on our team. No, I thought Brian would be on our team and we lost him. If you see where I'm leaning, I think I check all the same boxes Matt just checked
Mhm.
off. So, totally identify. Malo, I'm assuming as a movie connoisseur, you've probably seen this. This was more than your second time seeing it.
You are correct, sir. Yeah, I watched it in college, watched it at least one or two more times after, and then another time for this group, and then yesterday. And yeah, it's interesting. So there's a lot that I really, really love about this movie, but it inevitably always ventures into not liking it. I'm positive I talked about it last time, but I remember being in one of my theater classes and talking with the instructor about the separation between the art and the artist, and you know how you make amends with that. And as a 20-year-old or so, uh, very adamant. You can separate and it's fine and no problem. And as a 46-year-old, very much not, that's the case. There is still a lot that I really do appreciate about this, but I wrote down whiny, weird, and gross because those were adjectives that Matt just used. And the whiny and the weird, usually in this context, I find pretty funny. But inevitably it ends up going to gross, whether through the content or just through what we know of the individual, and it kind of sours a lot of it for me. I wrote the 70s were strange, I guess, was my only response to Matt's, like, how could this win? Well, so I don't know. In some ways, in other ways, I wrote the point of view is interesting. So, like, they did everything. Any idea they had, it feels like they kind of went with it, and for the most part, it worked. Right? He did the opening scene. I don't know who he's talking to. He's talking to us, the audience, but who are we in that? As an aware observer, and then we go to his point of view when the mom is talking. And I don't know, there's that. Breaking the fourth wall all over the place, whether it's just him. The movie line thing is hilarious. The guy is nonstop in his ear. And you kind of see it going one way, but then he takes it that like 2 extra steps when he brings out the person that he's talking about, to shut that guy down. And we would all love that. Like that. There's stuff like that that's really great. The subtext where they're having a scene together, and it's, on the surface, very, I don't know, first, second date kind of stuff. But there's the blatant subtext. The dueling psychiatry scenes, right? There's all these different, and they don't just stick with one. They just keep going with all of it. And especially in 1977, it's so much and so different that I get it. Let me see. What is that your business? That's the mom's response when he's talking about being upset about the universe expanding. I love that. And then not only just the point of view and whatever, the very next scene, I think, is the very, very long shot of him and Tony Roberts walking up and the dialogue, and you hear them for 30 seconds before they're in focus. Like, stuff like that is really good. There's a lot of other references that I kind of got here and there previously, but really got this time. He's talking about the Manson family, and then he says he's talking about Dick and Perry, and that's from In Cold Blood. What does he say? Sylvia Plath. There's one other one. Leopold and Loeb. Like, just all the Jack and Angelica, not that they're in the same spot as Leopold and Loeb, but just all these like little. They don't beat you over the head with it, which I really like a lot with stuff like this. They just throw it in there, and if you get it, cool. If not, fine. We're moving on. But I do appreciate that stuff. I thought it was really interesting. It's like, what, 40 years later, 40 plus, and the stuff they told us that was good is no longer good. Sun, milk, red meat, college, stuff like that is really great. I wrote down that I felt like this was kind of the next evolution from Henny Youngman, like the one-liners, because it's so quick and so witty, and Don Rickles and that kind of thing. And then the precursor to, maybe 5 years later, Cheers, and a few years later beyond that, like Frasier and Friends, and where everybody's very witty and they land all the time, but it's that kind of thing. I laughed very hard at a line that I didn't think I would have my Grammy never gave gifts. She was way too busy getting raped by Cossacks. I thought that was hilarious. I don't like to show my body to a man of my gender. Never know what's going to happen. That was pretty great. Let me see. That was a selfish thing. It Had to Be You is a song I hold dear. That was my first dance with James. And then this has been a couple other things when Harry Met Sally and that. Let's just kiss now and get it over with, and then we get the awkward part out of the way. Fantastic move. Just saying. Let me see. Life is divided between the horrible and the miserable. Be thankful that you were miserable. Some of that, like, I love that stuff. Don't knock masturbation. That's sex with someone I love. Let me see. I did notice, and this is a very more modern take on the whole, like, a lot of the jokes are funny, but they're also gaslighting. Like the whole, whatever, like, you should seek higher education or adult education. It's a wonderful thing. You can meet, the professors and that whole thing. The questionable stuff, black soap. What are you joining a minstrel show? Let me see. Jealous, a little bit like Medea. Hilarious. I taught sophomore English. Let me see. I'll have the alfalfa sprouts and a plate of mashed yeast when he's ordering in LA, like all that stuff. And then there's a few other ones where when Porchnik, I think is her name, like he does a little, it's not like a flat out take to the camera, but it's definitely an unwritten reaction that is still pretty funny. When the grandma looks over and sees him as full Hasidic Jew, like stuff like that is really good. The opposite of that, Tony Roberts bragging about how, or upset that he dragged him away from two 16-year-old twins. Wow. Awful. Is the best I can say about that. I remember when I was in college, there was a director we had, and she was talking about how she was going back and watching all these old movies. And I'm pretty sure I said this last time too. All these old movies of Elvis long after he was gone. And, she was like falling in love with this guy. And it's not to that extent at all, but I definitely feel that way with Diane Keaton in this. Like, she's just adorable. And I appreciate that very much, even though this was literally, it came out before I was born. So I don't know, little scattered. Overall, I guess the stuff that hits, I really get and I really like. That said, there's a lot that is, I don't know, problematic, but overall, I get for the time why it is received the way it is.
So problematic, is that another way of saying weird and creepy?
Well, yeah, or actually, what did I like? Whiny, weird, gross. Gross is the
Gross,
one.
weird,
Weird and gross. Yeah.
So, yeah, all those, yeah, all that. Hilty, yeah. Wait, oh, hang on. I can call it up real quick.
So edit the shit out of this tip. Edit the shit out of this tip. Edit the shit out of this tip. Hilty, you're up.
Here I am thinking that I was going to be on an island that says Woody Allen is just not for me. I've tried so many different Woody Allen movies, and they're all very similarly written because a lot of them are written and directed by Woody Allen, and they have similar issues. Look, I get the whole thing with the separate the art from the man, and I do agree with that, and that's a broader conversation that we can have at some point, I guess, but just looking at this from stylistically, between the dialogue, the way it's shot, yeah, I get it. It's got a lot of really good things going for it. And I think I just generally came to the conclusion that Woody Allen is just not for me. I mean, everyone's just got a handful of directors and writers or performers that is just like, yeah, I can't do this. Like I've given it enough shots, and there's some that I can at least semi tolerate, and the ones that I can semi tolerate are usually the ones that don't have Woody Allen in them. And I mean, even those, I'm tepidly recommending this to somebody. Like the only one that I can like kind of tepidly recommend beyond this is I'm a big fan of Midnight in Paris. That's really about it. Like all the other ones are just very similar. And it's just I think the big thing that I kind of struggle with all of Woody Allen's movies is that he just inserts himself so much into a lot of his characters. Um, Not just characters that he writes for other people, but characters he plays himself too. And that is where, for me, it gets such the ick and the creepy factor for me as well. Yeah, just not my jam. I can appreciate some of the things that this is trying to say about relationships and, how this feels like a pretty, like a decent representation of what a relationship is like versus a lot of other relationships out there that kind of, like, particularly in Hollywood, where it's just, you know, happy ending. It's like, no, not all relationships get a happy ending, and you go through a lot of
Rarely
shit.
do they.
Yeah, you go through a lot of shit together. Um, but yeah, I I'm glad I rewatched it again. It kind of just solidified my stance that like I think Annie Hall for what Woody Allen is trying to do with it, I think it was good for the time. It has just aged very poorly. And there's a lot of movies in the 70s that are very much like that. So we kind of have to take some of that stuff at a different standard. Like I was reading this article beforehand about there's a lot of people who feel that way about 70s movies. It's like what a time to be alive, right? And in the 70s when the golden age of film was just kind of right there. So um yeah, good Aaron, good pick. It's one of those movies that if we hadn't have done it before, probably should because it's one of those say what you will about Woody Allen, he is synonymous with Hollywood history because of his longevity and the amount of work that he's done. And this is one that absolutely deserves to be part of a movie club, but it's just I can't get over some of the things that just he himself has done, as well as some of the things that he's just kind of writes about his characters, um, kind of reflecting kind of his own feelings and just parts of himself about it. So, good pick. Just Woody Allen, not for me.
Yep. I'm hearing a lot of stuff I'm agreeing with from a lot of people. I like what you mentioned there about the 70s. I don't know like which golden age, because there's definitely golden ages. Um, but that chunk, that 10, 15 years, 10, 15 years that this came out in, I think the art was really driving, what made it to film. There's just so much creativity, so much boundary pushing with new technologies, new ways to tell stories. I don't know if it was, the drug culture, whatever, but a lot of people were experimenting with a lot of things. And storytelling being part of that. And you kind of see like I would say like the 90s, that was a gold age too, but that was very like blockbuster, lots of shit blowing up, for a teenage guy, that was a great era to grow up in for, big blockbuster movies. We, which somewhere in the middle between, the late 70s and, early 90s, late 80s, it's almost like shit got locked down. We got, kind of sobered up a little bit and everything became much more money driven. What can we put out on this, whatever weekend is going to make the most money before Christmas or Thanksgiving, or, what else? They really started locking that down on, let's make some, just obscene amounts of money, and they did a good job at that. And the art kind of suffered. I think when they look back 20, 30 years at what was making money now or what was seen as popular, I love, the Marvel movies and the DC movies and stuff like that, but there's not a whole lot of art or creativity going on. It's just taking comic book stories and, which, you know, great on their own. But it's not like I don't think a whole lot of boundary pushing happening now, which I agree. The fourth wall, when he broke it in line and then pulled it, then the other guy walked up behind him and like joined him. That was, I thought that was interesting. That was, I can't, think of another movie off the top of my head where that's happened. And then pulling the other guy out, which I took that as, oh God, who did Blazing Saddles?
Mel Brooks.
Mel Brooks. To me, that was more of a Mel Brooks thing, pulling the guy out from behind the sign and like having him face the guy that he was just talking shit about. So, but different things, different people took from it, but agreeing with a lot of what you had to say.
Oh, the movie with the giant boob.
Yeah.
Everything you need to know about sex, but we're afraid to ask.
Right, which was
was
probably
5
terrified how I found myself watching it, on HBO in the middle of the night or something.
Yeah, 5 years before this, and now my Google search is fucked because
Yeah.
giant boob Woody Allen is now forever in my search history until I clear it out.
I probably, as a, late elementary kid, early middle school kid, thought I was getting into something, very different by the title. And that boob scene is just burnt into my brain.
Fair.
And not in a good way. It was terrifying. Mike, we'll go from Mike to Mike.
Oh, all right, cool. Just arrived here in Wisconsin. Sorry for being late.
Hey, glad you showed up at all.
Well, thank you. I first time watching this, this was interesting, I guess. It was interesting to watch this movie. Like I'm not gonna say I necessarily enjoyed it. But it was interesting to watch it because it is historically, and historically as far as movie goes, it's movies go, God damn it. Anyway, um, and there was I did so Melo, you were talking a little bit about some of the tools that they used to tell the story. I did like some of the risks they took. I mean, they tried everything. I thought a lot of the fourth wall stuff was pretty fun. When you do that well, I really enjoy fourth wall stuff. It wasn't the best fourth wall stuff I've seen, but I was like, all right, yeah, it's they're doing it well. And then like when he would like half fourth wallet when like he'd be, talking to Annie and then they split and then he starts going down the street and just asking everybody that he's walking by, like, it's like, what's with your like how do you guys get your relationship to work? It's like, well, neither of us is interesting. We don't have anything interesting to say. And like just the kind of transparent, like that type of thing. I really enjoyed that. Some of the stuff I didn't think worked as well. The split screen therapy thing I actually didn't think worked as well because, um, well, I'll get to that in a second. And then like the cartoon part was kind of random, and the ghost as they're like starting to have sex thing was kind of weird, and I don't know, some of those things I didn't hit. The subtitles were a fun idea, but they kind of just came out of nowhere. Like I wasn't expecting subtitles, and then suddenly it was like, oh wait, we're doing subtitle. Like oh, and then it was done. Now the reason I think some of those things didn't work for me is because of Woody Allen's style. Now again, we'll take out the whole like we'll do the whole art not the artist thing here, but just as far as his style, just the constant talking and the really really fast talking, I don't know, man. It made it kind of hard to follow. And there were times, especially with the split screen therapy, or there were times when they're just having a conversation, and it was like, I watched this with my mom, and it was actually her comment that I thought summed it up the best. She's like, "You never get a moment to breathe." Like they're just talking, like there's not even a pause to even stop and think about what this person just said. It is just, it's so much fast talking. And there, there's obviously a lot of wit there, but it's just like, dude, slow down. I thought I was a talker. Good Lord. So yeah, I wrote Woody Allen as very, very Woody Allen. Like every impression I've ever seen of Woody Allen was basically this movie. That was pretty much, I was like, yep, okay, I get the impressions were all spot on. Diane Keaton is great. I understand like why she was, awarded for this. Speaking of Woody Allen impressions, for those of you that don't know, at the beginning of Seinfeld, Melo, you were listing Friends and Frasier and Cheers and all those. Seinfeld was a huge one because the character of George Costanza started out as just a Woody Allen impression. Jason Alexander originally went into it and he was like, he wasn't really completely sure what the character was. And before he figured out, oh, this is based on Larry David's life, and then he kind of started transitioning into basically just being Larry David. Before he realized that, he went in basically just doing his best Woody Allen impression. And there were a lot of times during this movie that I was like, that seems very like, why does this seem familiar? And I remembered, oh, this seems like George Costanza. And there are a lot of moments in this movie where Woody Allen's character is very Costanza-ish, just kind of the way his mannerisms, the way he talks, and sometimes the like weird little shit that he complains about. It's like this is just George Costanza. And it just, I don't know, that part of it was honestly my favorite part of watching this, was just kind of having those little realizations. And then my other favorite part of this was seeing all the different stars that were in this that were so young. I've never seen such a young Christopher Walken. I've never seen such a young Jeff Goldblum. If Jeff Gold when they had that little just that quick shot of Jeff Goldblum on the phone, I was like Jeff Goldblum out loud, as because my mom was in the other room. I was like, what? Um, and it didn't even do anything. I was just excited to see him. But yeah, Shelley Duvall being in this and Beverly D'Angelo, and it's just like there were a lot of names. I have a great appreciation for Paul Simon as a musician. I did not have very much appreciation for his hair in this. Um, and I know
That
it
was a
was the
70s
70s, but
style,
there,
man. That's the way it was
yeah,
over the
I know,
years.
but it just I couldn't. There's some 70s style that works and some that I'm just like I can't. I don't. He looked like to me he looked like one of the twins in The Shining with the hair. It just didn't work.
See, some of that I thought maybe
Um,
that was him or them poking fun at like slimy, music industry people that he has
yeah,
had to deal
and
with, and he was
and
probably
I'm not faulting Paul Simon himself. Maybe that was the point, was to look at this, look like a slimy industry person. But that, in which case, mission accomplished, because that hair I did not like at all. And speaking of which, there were some weird looking people in this movie, especially like in the beginning, those two guys that go up to him on the street. By the way, fuck those guys. Like for the way that they're just like they go in just from a character standpoint, as far as like the whole like, hey, look, it's this guy, it's Alfie Roy, and like they're like shouting right in his face and trying to alert everybody that, hey, here's this celebrity. Like, fuck you, man. Respect the guy's privacy. It's one thing to go up and be like, hey, 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 you're that guy, you're that guy. Hey, give me an autograph. Hey, you're that guy. Hey, my girlfriend's name is Ralph. Hey, that guy. Oh no, it's my brother. All that shit. But then after all of that, to shout out to everybody, be like, "Brr, it's this guy." I just like, fuck you guys, man. They did a good job of making those guys really, really annoying. Um, Let's see. I wrote a bunch of random notes during this. Otherwise, that was most of the actual insightful stuff I guess I had to say. But um, I did laugh towards the beginning too, where the guy in line at the movie theater behind him that's just talking and talking in his ear, and he keeps complaining about it. The girl that's with that guy in line looks bored as hell. She just does not look like she's just not having it at all. I need to rest my voice is a pretty effortless excuse. And it should be a pretty clear sign that, like, yeah, the answer is no. I know it's different, different times, but still, like, I when she's like, "Oh, I have to sing tomorrow and I should rest my voice and that's why we shouldn't have sex." Like,
It's a great backhanded compliment, though. Like it's
I mean, yeah, in a way, but it's still I've heard a lot of excuses in my day, and it's just that one's a pretty lousy one. Although again, when it's that lousy, it should just like, okay, that's very clearly it just no. Um anyone on a date says touch my heart with your foot, date over.
Rude.
speaking of cameos, you know who that guy is? Sorry, I don't mean to jump in, but
No, it was
he's from Smallville. He's Lex Luthor's dad. He's Lionel Luthor.
oh,
John Glover.
okay.
Yeah, John Glover. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure many other things and probably higher profile than that, but that's where I know.
Interesting. I said that the movie jumping around, it was jumping around a little bit, especially at the beginning. And when the scene came up where she's driving the car really fast, I was like, this is what the movie feels like, is being in this car. When she's in the club and singing and nobody's paying attention, as a guy that's done stuff on stage before, been there. So I really felt for Diane Keaton at that point. Only ever known Christopher Walken as old or older, so it was pretty fun seeing him as young here. There's the Jeff Goldblum thing with the exclamation points and question marks.
You've
I mean,
never seen
it
the Deer
was
Hunter?
like,
Sorry, you've never seen the Deer
I
Hunter?
haven't seen Deer Hunter. No, of course not. Um, Hilty's point about it being like a kind of an accurate reflection of about like a relationship, I did notice that. And then my last note is my most petty comment of the week is when she does a really good job and she goes in, like, the song was very pretty, but it went on too long. She's sitting there singing, and I was just like, I fell out of it. I was like, why are we still doing this? We haven't moved cameras, we haven't shown anybody else. It was just camera on her singing, and I was like, I don't care. Let's just move on. And that was my experience with Annie Hall.
The camera when she was singing did slowly pull back, and if you were fast forwarding it like I did, you'd notice it pull back. But you were watching it
I
regular
didn't
speed,
fast
so you
forward,
didn't
but I
notice
stopped
it.
paying attention at that point
That's the
until the song
60s
was
and
done.
70s right there. That is the 60s and 70s.
Yeah,
film.
I felt the same
Not
way. I
a,
was
not
like,
a not a cabaret guy. Even the "It Had to Be You" version was so slow, and yeah,
yeah, I don't know
Well,
if it was like
I'm glad that I watched this, especially, like Hilty was saying, it's a movie group. We should have watched this by now if we hadn't already, because I know it's, picked from earlier. So I'm glad the three of us newbies got to watch it too. Um, I'm probably not gonna watch it again on purpose.
so. To be clear, though, you have not seen the Deer Hunter.
I have not.
Okay,
He made that quite clear.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Tim, because Dan is getting
He's
it
made
last.
He's made an assertive request to go last. That's true. I really enjoy this movie. It's funny for a general negative feeling from the crowd. You guys have ticked off all of my positives about this movie. So it's real, but you guys are like, I really don't like this movie, but they did this and this and this. Yeah, for me, I have to remove Woody Allen's personal life to be able to watch this movie because I mean it's terrible. It's just terrible. And here's the thing, you can't hide it. Like he created this and he put some of that in there. Like we're talking about the 16-year-old twins thing and like you can't hide it. Having said that though, I get why this is really highly touted. It's 31st on AFI's top 100 movies, right? It did well at the box office. It won 4 Oscars, including the screenplay, and I think the screenplay is the strongest thing. Mike is talking about how it goes so fast you can't really catch everything. I think there's a positive to the fact that there are so many. Melo is alluding to these. There are so many little references in here you can't possibly catch them all in one watching, which I think is a strength of the screenplay and the overall feel of the movie.
Well, and it's too bad that I'm only gonna have one watch.
Yeah, yeah. I wrote down the great devices, and you guys have named all of them. The interview style opening, and I don't need to repeat them all. Asking strangers about love, where the one lady says I'm shallow, and the one guy says we use a large vibrating egg, I think is fucking hilarious. There's a lot of go forward in time, and When Harry Met Sally reminds me of this movie a lot. Like there's a lot of parallels going on here, and Billy Crystal does a great job of being really particular, just like Woody Allen and the Costanza reference that Mike's thrown out there. I wrote down that this character is an unapologetically self-defeating character, and if anybody can appreciate that, it's a couple of Larsons. So he's just he knows he's deficient as a person, and he doesn't even apologize for it. He's just like, look, this is what we're dealing with here, so we should have sex anyway. My favorite scenes are the first glass of wine scene. I love the subtitles. I love the way that works. It's a very interesting way to sort of explore the two sides of flirting. And then I feel the same way about the therapy sessions, the split screen therapy sessions, that it's a really interesting approach to getting his point across at how the genders approach dating separately. And it's kind of, I don't know historically how early this is, but getting in the female's version of sexuality and flirting into the movie, I think this is pretty early in 77 for that kind of feel. And so some of this stuff is at the time kind of breakthrough stuff. And so I think that's why historically it's so well touted. My favorite stuff is his snarky responses for sure. Christopher Walken t- talking about how he just wants to pull over into the next lane and have an explosion, and then having him drive the car, and the look on Woody Allen's face is a very good laugh out moment for me. I know I've had conversations with Brian about this, going and seeing a movie. Going in 5 minutes late would absolutely kill him. He would not be able to get into that movie. I mean, he doesn't want to miss the trailers, much less the first 5 minutes of the movie. And these are in my quotes that I enjoyed. He says, I can't do that because I'm so anal. And she says, that's a polite word for what you are, is just a great line. One of my other highlights here that didn't come up is the New York lifestyle versus the LA lifestyle. I thought that's really well played too. Even the coloring of the scenes is completely different. It always looks like it's just about to rain in New York, and there's garbage everywhere. Kind of like the opening scene for Dog Day Afternoon, where you just see why those guys are going to rob the bank. New York just looks aggressive, not a fun place to be, even though he likes it so much. You go out to LA, and it's just laid back hippie lifestyle, and it's warm. The scenery is all warm. And there's even one of the quotes is, it's so clean out here. And he said that's because they don't throw away their garbage. They turn it into television shows. I mean, the quippiness of some of these lines is just fantastic for me. And then, I mean, I think my favorite quote is the one that in that interview in the beginning, I would never want to belong to any club that have someone like me as a member. Is he credits Marx, I think, on that one. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Groucho.
Groucho Marx,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, Groucho, not Carl. Sorry.
Correct. I don't know how often I feel the need to go out of my way to watch this, though. Like a lot of the movies we talk about, if it comes on, I'm going to leave it on, or I'll go out and I'll rewatch it. I don't know how often I feel I need to rewatch it. So I enjoy this movie. I think I'm going to stop short of saying I love this movie, but for what it did historically, movie making, for the quippiness and sarcastic comments, and just that unapologetic negative approach to relationships, I kind of enjoy it. Maybe I'm a sick bastard, I don't know, but I enjoy the humor and the approach for this movie. So thanks for picking it.
So do you believe it's well placed at 31 on that AFI list?
You got to look at all the other 99 movies, probably, right?
Ballpark, middle
But
third.
I like it. I like it being there, especially like I said, the historical context of what they did for the time, the subject matter that they approached. and then we have to live with the cringiness. I mean, you can't get away from it. It's
Right.
Woody Allen's cringy.
Yeah. And more now than ever, I think,
Yep.
just for me, this being the first watch of it and seeing this, knowing it was, 77 and what was actually going on in his life, and like makes it worse,
Mhm.
because I knew about him in the, 90s, 2000s when, all the Mia Farrow stuff was going on. And, it was really, I'm not actually sure when he started getting dragged for that, but it went on for a long time. And,
Yep.
every few years it would come up. I don't know if a movie would hit a milestone and get some accolades and people would be like, oh, but remember what he did with the,
Mhm.
kid that he, and it's like, oh yeah.
Roman Polanski is another guy that's got a lot of his deservedly so. His name has been dragged through the mud for similar type stuff.
Right. Oh,
It
yeah.
was Chinatown 76. It was like right then.
Right.
75. Like
Mhm. For those of
Yeah.
us who remember the 70s, maybe if you guys that don't, if you got a time machine, don't go, because a lot of these characters, that seems about right. Like it's like the hairstyles and the different aggressive approaches. And I mean, I was a kid, so they were adults and they just looked terrifying to me when I'd run across somebody that, looked mean or whatever, but it's not that off from the truth as I recall
Okay,
Yeah.
boomer.
it.
For me, the 70s were just, summers that lasted 2 years and winters that lasted 2 years. It's just like everything was such a bigger part of your life. I had no idea what was going on in pulp culture or anything like that, but it's just, looking back on the road, because I remember having snowdrifts, over my head. Well, yeah, I was 3
Yeah.
feet tall,
Yeah.
so Dan, are you satiated? Are you got enough nutrients?
Nah, not really, but I just don't have anything to really eat. I was kind of poking around the refrigerator for a minute there and couldn't really. I had to bring some potato chips. That's all I could find.
More importantly, as a sub, did you win or lose?
We won.
Nice. All
Nice.
right.
I scored too.
Nice.
Hey.
Yep. Walked in from the point, this puck came right out to me, like up on it, sitting on a tee. Slap shot right by the goalie.
And you
Sneaky
didn't-
Dan in the right place.
Yep.
But
Um,
I guess third on the list, how'd you feel about Annie Hall?
So I did drop in Will Ferrell in the chat there. Hilty was talking about annoying actors that he just doesn't get into, and that's for me, Will Ferrell. I just can't watch any of his movies. But this movie for me, it's kind of like what Tim was saying. There's movies that I'll watch a bunch of times. I'll watch it 10, 15 times. Whenever it's on, I'll watch it. I liked this movie the first time I watched it, and I really didn't have to watch it again after that. It just kind of gets more degraded as it goes, more times I watch it. So to use something from the movie, this movie is like kind of a dead shark for me.
Nice.
All the Jewish stuff that he thinks that everybody just hates him because he's a Jew. He's like, everybody's talking about, thinks he's talking about him. They were saying, the part where he's saying, did you do it? And they're really saying, did you do it? And it's like, man, that's what Woody Allen does. He's neurotic and his sex obsessed. That's the two things are in a lot of his movies. There's good things in it. There's a lot of quotes that I like life is miserable and over too soon. So, I can understand the screenplay thing. For all of you, and I kind of get it why it won the Oscar for Best Picture, especially back then. There weren't like a whole lot of blockbusters that won the Best Picture, like Star Wars and Close Encounters of the Third Kind was the same year. So the Academy Awards people were more inclined to pick a movie like this over, those other ones. Not that it's right or anything, but I think that's just the way they went, especially back then. But yeah, like Wilden said, I saw Jeff Goldblum. I don't know if this is the first movie he was ever in, but it just cracks me up. He says, "I forgot my mantra" when he's on the phone there. That line just cracks me up. Little things that you just don't know if they go over these days. They're serving ham at her dinner that he was at with the parents. And it's kind of like, ooh, I don't know. But at its
He makes
core,
a comment, right? Doesn't he say like it's good ham or something
Right.
like that, which is
Yeah.
hilarious?
Yep. But I think that's one of the things that makes him, kind of a bad person in this movie is she's getting more popular with her singing and getting invites for things, and he's trying to, I don't know, keep her down. Her life is getting a little better and his is staying the same. And he just he doesn't like that, like the school thing, like you should go to school and, get better. And then when she does, he's like, why the hell are you going to school?
Right.
So, but that the one thing that Tim said that I didn't like the split screen with the therapy, because they're both talking at the same time and they're both showing the the dialogue at the same time. So there was a lot going on. You really couldn't read all of it and hear everything that they were saying at the same time. So I didn't like that. I liked it earlier when they were, talking about dating and it was showing what they were really thinking. I think that was a little easier to follow than the therapy scene. But you know, I'd 31. That sounds a little high for me for this movie. While I, did like it the first time or two I watched it. I'm thinking more like 70, 75. But I'll just end with you guys. I love all of you guys.
Thanks, Dan.
That was very nice.
We love you too.
It was
Two
I was-
Fs.
2 Fs.
they
We love
they
you, two
when,
Fs.
you know they used a lot of the different tools, and when it came to the split screen thing, I was like, I didn't feel like that went over well. I was like, well, who's somebody that's done it better since then? And the only thing I can't thought of right away was that '70s show as far as
Well,
the split screen gimmick.
funny you mention it, because not just for that, one of the places I've seen this, obviously huge movie, 31 could be debated on 100 all time, but in that 70s show they go see this movie, and as they're making out, I don't know, in Eric's bed or down in the basement, they do the out of body experience
Oh
with
yeah.
Donna, you know and so when I saw that, it was a high point in the movie for me, because I got a reference. But
Cool.
But that
Yeah.
was it. I was done.
okay, that's what I thought. And I was gonna so it still makes the top 100 for you though, huh, Dan? If you deserve it, belongs on the 100 must watch movies of all time.
Yeah, because I remember the first time or two watched it, I really liked it a lot. So yeah, I'd say top 100. Yes.
Right. And then kind of what you were talking about, how as far as Academy Awards and stuff go, this being more art, where say it was up against a technically superior movie like Star Wars, where they didn't appreciate, technology, use of technology, that kind of thing. I think they saw that more of a subcategory and nothing that would ever win Best Picture. So I agree with that, where they like the artsy more than the fartsy.
Yeah, I'm almost. I don't know the numbers, but I'm pretty sure Star Wars made more money than this movie.
Thank God. Really did not see this going this way. I remember when I think, I don't know, months ago, we were picking movies that I don't know if it was a eat your vegetables kind of thing or movie that we should have seen. And I had pulled this out, and right away, people in the group, had said, "Oh, we've seen it, can't watch it." Um, and I really thought there was a chorus of, "But you need to watch it." It might have just been Tim, really loud and often. Um, but I really thought like everybody liked it, and were willing me to see it. So I thought this was going to go a totally different way. Even up until last week when it was mentioned that, Brian might not have been, you know, didn't like it. I was like, ooh, that was sneaky, and we're obvious, hopefully there'll be a little back and forth and people having, alternate opinions on it. But it almost swung 180 degrees from Brian being the standout that didn't like it to Tim kind of being the standout that really did like it. I know other people liked a lot of stuff about it, and I'm just kind of summarizing there. Melo, I think you have an overall positive opinion of it, right? But
Tim,
yeah,
did you pick it the first time through? So I
Pretty
thought.
sure.
right away, I was exhausted by the Woody Allen caricature, and I don't know if that's him or whatever. Um, but to me, growing up with him being such a big influence on the art and so many people doing versions of a Woody Allen character, I always thought like the caricature was like above and beyond, and you're like stretching it, and you're amplifying it to make sure the audience realizes who it is you're making an example or an homage to. Um, he was way more Woody Allen than any Woody Allen caricature I've ever seen. And like I said, within minutes, I was exhausted of it. Um, it almost makes me feel like Larry David, who I'm not a big fan or a fan at all of Curb Your Enthusiasm. I like Seinfeld, but Curb, and to me, it's like, oh my God, Larry David is just doing a spot on Woody Allen. And to me, and
Yeah.
I understand why I don't like Curb Your Enthusiasm, or this didn't sit right with me either. I did love and don't know where it falls in all of filmmaking history, all the different things they tried and did well. You guys talked about it. I liked all the stunts, talking to randoms on the street, and the audience could clearly hear it, about what was going on in his life. The subtitles on the date with the wine, the therapist sessions, I all that I thought was really well done. Um, I don't know, gags or whatever you'd call them. They're not really stunts, but just different things. And like I said, if they were brand new, if these were like the first times people did stuff like that, really cool to try it out. And I think most of it worked. I don't know, and I mentioned Mel Brooks, so you guys helped me come up with the name Mel Brooks. How much of that was already being done? Who was, playing with it? Like I said, 60s into the 70s, these people, marijuana was referenced, even though it was had to have been illegal. It was still talked about on screen, and they weren't trying to hide it. And so coming out of the 60s into this, how many people involved with the drug culture, how much of that bled in and just made like their reference to cocaine and stuff like that. I don't know. It wasn't like Miami Vice and they were trying to get the people, or they were bad people, or people that were hooked on it and, criminals. They were just people they were hanging out with that, would you like some cocaine? Or you got to smoke a little weed to get me in the mood to have sex with you. It wasn't a big deal.
A lot of that change in movies when Nancy Reagan came out with her campaign to end, drugs, and a
Right.
lot
And
of filmmakers stopped using it
that's kind of
in
what I was saying.
movies.
Around the 80s, they kind of, sobered up America. They were like, we got to lock this shit down. No more smoking, no more smoking weed. Everybody on cocaine is a bad, Cuban, or, whatever, some other that isn't going to fit in. But yeah, so I like that kind of stuff. But other than the groundbreaking, I think Tim used that term, how much of it is actually groundbreaking, or the fact that it was in 1977, cool. But other than that, I didn't really enjoy the movie much. I didn't get him as a sex symbol like everybody his buddy introduced him to,
Right.
ended up in bed with him, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
It's just, and I know it's a movie and you're making a point in moving things along. You don't show all the misses, but I don't know, just him being some kind of sexual dynamo was a bridge too far for me. And then just like you guys have already mentioned, the not that he was a Jew, just the complaining about it all of the time. And the only thing I found funny was when they were having that long shot that I think Tim was talking about, or somebody was talking about before we could even see him. And he's talking about, eating lunch. And he was like, oh, and he asked me, Jew eat? And I was like, and maybe in New York it's a little bit different because here it's Jeet, did you eat?
Yeah.
Jeet. It's not, Jew eat, it's Jeet. So I don't know. I don't know, it might be a Michigan thing, or it might even be a Port Huron thing. But anyway, so glad I watched it. Really glad for the points that it gets me on averages. That should not even be negotiable. It's the movie I picked.
Was there some question about that?
Yeah, it was brought up. There's going to be a sidebar of the elderly statesman's club that we're going to decide if we get to use these points as the rewatches or not. And I firmly put my foot down right on your heart.
It's not a contest.
Then you don't keep score.
It's like a
But
Little League
anyway.
championship game. It's not a contest.
Just give him an asterisk.
Oh, I've already got an asterisk that I put in gray, light gray. You can't even see it, but it's there. But yeah, I'm done. Annie Hall, great for pop culture. Glad I saw it. I don't know if it'd make my list of 100 movies to watch, but it's on somebody's.
Sure. All right. Well, we are up for our last newbie pick. Hilty's up with his rewatchable, I think, and really interested to hear what Hilty comes up with. What do you got for us?
I am invoking the movie theater rule
All right.
for this. So
Dude, it's my first week back to work. God damn it.
bitch.
What else you got to do?
Work. This is the first week I actually have shit to do in a long time.
We all have that all the time.
I know.
I had to listen to Woody Allen whine for 2 hours today. I'm not listening to you, Mike.
So, Brian alluded to it earlier. I'm gonna make you all go watch Wicked. Sorry, guys. If you've seen it already, cool. But
If you've seen it already, you got to go see it again.
no, absolutely not. Just once.
Who has seen it already?
You mean the real Wicked on stage?
You've seen it
Yeah,
twice already?
you have to.
I
to
have
go-
actually
I've
actually
seen Wicked
the
on
real
stage also.
Wicked on
I've seen
stage,
Wicked on stage as
not
well.
the fake piece of crap they released as a movie.
Oh, a little early. A little early for that.
So you haven't seen it, but you're calling it a piece of crap.
Correct. Have you seen any of the press for this movie? It's
my
going to be
wife,
terrible. It's going
It's
to be.
gonna be.
my wife
We-
saw it yesterday and loved it.
We
Good for her.
haven't.
We're going to have to see it again in November of 2025. Does she know that? Because it's not over yet.
Yeah, she knows it was a two-parter. She
Yeah.
was explaining all
Oh
that to
my
me today.
God, what the fuck is up your
Matt,
ass?
what were you drinking
Jesus.
today, Matt?
Hey, guess what? There was a Empire Strikes Back's a sequel too. The movie has 3 parts. Were you pissed about that? Shit, Lord of the Rings, 3 parts. Hobbit,
Hey,
3 parts. There's
I
only
love
2
this
in
version of
Wicked.
Matt.
Settle down.
Encourage it. Encourage this from
Jesus.
Matt.
For a
Go
second,
to school
I
I
tomorrow.
like grumpy Matt.
might
Choose violence
So wait,
more often,
the
Matt?
rules here. The rules here for the rewatch is it
Yeah, there are
Yeah.
no rules, Dan.
There are none.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Everyone,
Literally no rules.
everyone
I
has everyone
I-
has a free pass at any time. They can say we're going to the
I
theater.
consulted
We
with
agreed on that
Tim.
a long time ago. Yeah.
Okay.
I consulted with Tim on this. I consulted with Brian earlier in the week about movies that would cause a lot of controversy, and
Hilty asked about, hey, can I do the let's go to the movie theater thing? And I was like, yep, that's fair game at any time. And I was like, although Brian did come up with this rewatchable thing, and both that were picked were movies he did not enjoy. And I'm kind of enjoying watching his face when people say what movie it is. And we had a little moment about repicking Pulp Fiction. But we're going to the movie theater, fellas.
I'm just
All
kidding.
right.
I'm excited to go.
Are you? Are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
More than
could-
Matt.
I was doing it for effect. It's fine.
That'll do it for this episode of the BTB Movie Club podcast. Thank you as always for listening. We know we enjoyed ourselves. We hope you did too. Have yourself a great week. We are partnered with the SPDM Crew Podcast Network.